Today we're going to talk about some of our nail guns that we have here at City High in the shop. Right here I've got a few different framing nailers, a roofing nailer, and a brad nailer. So all different kinds of nailers that you would use in different places here when you're in the shop. The very first thing we're going to talk about here is our PPE for these tools. These are some of the most dangerous tools that we're going to use in the shop, so we got to be very, very careful with these. As always, our safety glasses are going to be super important here. Closed-toed shoes, and if you want hearing protection, these can be pretty loud, and so if you want hearing protection, that's always a good thing to have. So the second thing is going to be just how we treat these tools. When this tool is used, it fires a nail that is capable of going through a 2x4, right? As you can imagine, that's going to be pretty dangerous if that were to be, if that nail were to be going anywhere other than a piece of wood. And so these tools have a few different safety features on them, but our first safety feature is just the way that we treat these tools. And we always treat these tools as if they are a loaded firearm that can kill somebody. If that nail were to go into someone's head, it would be a very, very serious injury that could result in death. So we never, ever point these at anyone else. They are only pointed at the wood, and we are keeping our fingers off of that trigger until we intend to fire a nail into that board. So some of the safety features. The first one is going to be all of these can be disconnected from their power source. So right now none of these tools have batteries. So these red ones are battery powered. The greenish ones are all air powered, and none of these are hooked up to the air. There's no power to these tools right now. The second feature, the red ones are going to have a power on switch. Anytime the battery is removed and put back in, you do have to turn them back on so you can't accidentally not realize it's on. The third thing is they all have a safety switch here. This end, this point, has to be pressed into a piece of work. So when I push this down, that's releasing the safety. Now if I were to pull the trigger, it could fire a nail. All of these tools have that exact same thing. So on this one here, on the end, when I press down, then I am able to fire a tool. The roofing nailer looks a little bit different. It's flat, but the same thing. When I press down, now I can fire a nail. And on my brad nailer, a little bit smaller, of course, because these are really tiny nails. But once I press it down into the work, now I can fire a nail. Whenever we are loading these guns, these nailers, we always want to make sure we are removing that power source. So on the battery powered ones, we're going to remove the battery. On the air powered tools, we're going to remove the air hose whenever we're working on these nail guns. All of these work fairly similarly. Well, they really don't actually. The two nail guns, the two framing nailers work pretty similarly in the fact that we have strips of nails like this that slide into the back, and then you pull this over the top. It should go on its own if it's a full strip, but you pull that over the top. This one works the same way. You're going to slide your strip of nails in, pull this back, and it'll lock in. On our brad nailer, it's a little squeeze to open, and you can put your nails in. And the the roofing nailer is by far the most complicated one because these are coil nails. So you open up this front, you open up this side, and it's actually a coil of nails. And on these, you have to make sure that they are fed through correctly, or it's not going to work when you want to use it. So those are a little bit more tricky. The last thing I'm going to mention here before we go ahead and kind of show how these work is that all of these tools have a selectable mode. Whether they are, the two modes would be called a sequential fire mode or a multiple fire mode. And on the two framing nailers, that's just a switch right here. So that would switch back and forth. The one with a picture of 3 nails is your multiple. The one with a picture of 1 nail is your sequential. On this tool, it is on the back here. You hit the mode button to switch between the two. On the brad nailer, it is in, it's a great question. I think it has it. Oh, right here. So on the brad nailer, it is right here by the power switch again. The roofing nailer is the only one that does not have that setting. The roofing nailer is always in multiple fire mode, and so you need to be, again, extra careful with this. All of the other nail guns in here, we are only ever going to use in sequential fire. Sequential fire means that I have to do things in order, press the nail gun into the surface, pull the trigger, and it'll shoot a nail. In multiple fire mode, I can pull the trigger and then shoot multiple nails just by bumping it. So you'll hear that called, bump action. Professionals will use that a lot, although it is probably the most common way that people get injured using nail guns. So OSHA recommends you do not use multiple fire mode on these nailers. And we will not in this class, except for the roofing nailer, because it is not a choice on the roofing nailer. It only has multiple fire. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear off some space, get a little setup here, and then I'll show you how each of these work. Okay, take two. I did not have the air compressor turned on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and load some nails in here. Just slide these in, and then I can pull the that piece back, and I've got my nails loaded in. So before I go ahead and plug this in, I'm in single fire mode. I've got my nails loaded. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug in this nailer. So at this point, this nail gun can fire a nail. We are not going to trust that the safety is going to keep us from doing that, so we keep our finger off the trigger until we are ready to actually put a nail in. When I go to put my nail in, keep my finger off the trigger for now, I don't want to be holding the board way up here, okay? These are about 3-inch nails. I need to keep my hand well back away from where that nail is going to go in. That's probably one of the most common ways you could get injured with one of these is your hand up here, that nail goes sideways and it's going to go right into your hand. When I'm ready to use this, my hand's out of the way, all I've got to do is press the tip of that nail gun into the wood and then pull the trigger. And that didn't fire at all. Try that again. There we go. So I pressed that in and my nail is in the wood. I can do that one more time here. My finger's off the trigger, pressed it in, now I pull the trigger and I've shot a nail. So I've got my 2 nails for my stud to my top plate connection ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this. It's gonna be a little loud. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you the same thing here on battery powered framing nailer. So at this point I've got nails loaded. I'm gonna take my battery, put it in, and I need to turn this on and make sure that it's in single mode. So at this point again, I am ready. The same thing is gonna happen here. When I go to put this in, I'm gonna make sure that my hand is well out of the way. Press the nail gun into the wood and then pull the trigger. And I don't know if you saw that, you probably didn't, but a little piece of plastic came out and hit me in the safety glasses. So that's why we're wearing these. I'll do that one more time. And I've got my 2 nails in there right now. So that's how the framing nailers work. The last thing I want to mention here, I'm going to take the battery out before I move on, is that there's a lot of different types of nails that we can put in these framing nailers. These are specifically ring shank nails that are really good for putting on sheathing. They're just what I happen to have right now, so I'm using them for this too. If you have a smooth shank nail, those are really good for framing. Roofing nails, different lengths brad nails. Make sure you're picking a nail that's right for your job. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of OSB here, and we'll take a look at what this looks like for putting on some sheathing. So I want to make sure when I'm doing this that I know where my studs are. Other than that, it works pretty much the same way. If I'm going to use my battery powered nailer here, I'm just going to slide in the battery. I have to turn it on again. So I'm going to turn it on, make sure it's in single mode. And then the same thing happens here. I'm just going to press down, pull the trigger. You can see it just puts a nail right in there. Do that again, press down, pull the trigger, puts in a nail. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you the same thing on the pneumatic nailer. So again, I'm just going to make sure that once I put this air in, I'm not putting that nail gun at anyone. Keep my finger off the trigger until I'm ready. But now I can put this tip in, pull the trigger. Put the tip in, pull the trigger. I'm going to show you what this looks like in multiple fire mode right now. We're not going to use this mode, but I'm going to flip it to multi-fire, and I'm going to pull the trigger. Watch what happens every time I bump this. I can put in a lot of nails. I think you can imagine here why that could be a very bad thing. If I'm bumping that along and something else gets in the way, whether that's my foot, my hand, anything else, it doesn't care. It's going to fire a nail. So that's why we're not using that mode in class. Okay, next up I'm going to show you the roofing nailer. I have a shingle here. So we're imagining that we are shingling a roof. Other than that, the same thing is going to work here. I'm going to hook up my air supply, and I'm going to use this just like it's a single fire nail gun. I'm going to press into wherever I need to put my nail, pull the trigger. Press in, pull the trigger. Press in, pull the trigger. This does multiple fires, okay? So if I pull the trigger right now, you can see it's multiple fire. There's no way to turn that off. We are not going to be using that in this class. So that's how the roofing nailer works. The last one I'm going to show you here is our brad nailer. This is mostly for woodworking, so if you're taking a woodworking class, you might use this tool, but it works the same way. I'm going to turn on my tool right here, make sure it's in single fire mode, and then I can just press it into my workpiece and pull the trigger. These are really long nails, so these are actually going through. And there you can see that. The most dangerous thing with this brad nailer is that these nails are really, really small and they bend. So it's really common for one of these nails, if I were to get close to the edge of a board here, I'm gonna see if I can do it, to shoot right out the side. You gotta make sure you know where your fingers are, because if that nail shoots out the side, it's not gonna be a serious injury, but it's gonna hurt a lot. And it's gonna hurt a lot to pull that back out. So make sure you know where your other hand is when you're using these tools. So I'll go ahead and take this battery out. Last thing I'm going to end with on this video is our safety again. Make sure you have your safety glasses. If you want hearing protection, that's even better. But the most important thing is treating these like a loaded firearm. If that battery is in, or really no matter what, we're not pointing the nail gun at another person. We are keeping our finger off of the trigger until we're ready to use it appropriately. And if we walk away from the tool, we're removing the battery, we're disconnecting the air. At this point, the nail gun is the only reason I've ever removed somebody from a class permanently. So I do take this very seriously, and that's our nail guns. Thank you.